Happy New Year from Sonona Speak Seminars, and this is Coffee Talk with the Listing Pros in Real Estate. And my first guest of the new year is Michael Geraci of Douglas Elliman. How are you, Michael? How you doing?
I'm doing good, Joe. How are you? And thank you for having me on the show.
I'm great, great. A good start to the new year with you. And I just want to get right into the questions and ask
Sure.
you, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, I mean, believe it or not, March will make 18 years that I'm licensed and in the business. So a lot of time spent in the business, and it really, as much as it's taken, as much as the time is taken, it really kind of goes by quickly. And you're in the business, so you know what I'm talking about. Especially this year, as much has gone on this year, last year rather, 2020, it went by rather quickly. So I can't believe it's 18 years in the business. Started in 2003. I've worked with a few different companies, but I've been with Douglas Elliman now for the last 6.5, almost 7 years. I'm their training instructor for New York City, but I also am active in sales too. I've been, involved in listing property since I started in 2003. So I was technically trained as a listing agent in the business, and it's kind of what I've done my whole career. But just like you're a certified training instructor through the state. So am I. So you like to kind of give back through education and seminars. So I do a lot of that as well. But again, active in sales as much as I could be, because that's sort of my first love in the business.
And we were almost there in 2020, you and I training together for the first time in the
Yeah,
same room,
yeah,
and then the pandemic started. But we'll
yes,
get there hopefully this year,
yes,
and we will continue training agents from all over Long Island and Brooklyn and Queens.
yes.
How is the market in Brooklyn?
The market in Brooklyn is active, very active. I mean, there's a lot of people who are heading out your way from Brooklyn out to Long Island, Nassau and Suffolk County. So I know your market is up as far as average price is concerned year over year, where we're sort of flat, everything is leveled out. Properties are moving, but there aren't, lines down the block at open houses like you guys are having out on Long Island, but everything is moving, so
Yeah.
the inventory that I have is starting to move. We have some other things going into contract. And everybody around me within my office, my company, and my friends at other companies, I see everybody's very active in Brooklyn.
So, if I had to ask you, which I ask all the guests on the show, it's a teaching tool for agents. What is your secret sauce to listing real estate?
I don't know if there's a secret sauce in real estate.
Everybody has something secret.
In the restaurant business, there's secret sauces, but in real estate, I think it's, especially when it comes to listings, it's a conversation. And this, the more you sit down with homeowners, the more that listing presentation becomes a conversation, right? So I was trained to do that presentation. I was trained to understand what the concerns or the objections of a homeowner might be in listing their property, and how to address those concerns. So I've been listing properties since 2003. It's coming up on 18 years. And for me, it's gotten to the point where the more I make it conversational, the easier it becomes to make that homeowner understand the process of selling their home. So to me, it's conversational. There's no secret sauce. It's just, in the beginning, you certainly have to practice your dialogue and understand what you're saying, and do some mock scenarios with people. What do we talk about? Role playing all the time, right? It's practicing.
Right.
So that's really what it comes down to. Understand what you're talking about, most importantly, but make that a conversation. It's not a presentation. It becomes a conversation.
Do you use any special technology to market homes after you've listed them?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like I said, 18 years in the business. So I started before technology played such a huge part in our business, right? It's not as much of a part that it plays today. So my advice is, sort of understand technology first, right? It plays a big part in our business, especially when you factor in social media and video and all these different apps. So understand the technology part of it first, grasp that concept, and then incorporate these things into your business. So I do a lot of video, Joe, and you see, and I see you do a lot of video also. I think it's important when you're showcasing a property to demonstrate it through video. And sometimes you narrate that video and there's words, or sometimes there's just music behind it, but it really brings the property to life, especially if you have a good videographer. And I've gotten great feedback from my videos. So current, video technology, drone video, 3D virtual tour. I mean, everything soup to nuts when it comes to marketing.
What would we have done without it 18 years ago, even 31 years ago? Can you imagine?
Uh,
Even the cell phone wasn't even invented back then.
do, do
Well,
you,
it was, but only the very rich and the elite
do
had
you
it.
do you remember when text messaging first started, and to type an E, you had to hit the three button three times to get to the
My God,
E?
it was so frustrating. And I was like, how do you do this thing? Oh my God. Oh, and it was like this with the little finger,
It was
and my finger
painful.
was too big for the letters. So
So
you could,
we've come a
but
long way.
I was just going to say, we come a long way. A lot of young people come into our business, a lot of millennial generation
Sure.
buyers, a lot of millennial generational realtors. What is the advice for a new agent today coming into the business in 2021?
Well, putting on our training hats and our coaching hats for a minute. I
We
mean,
can't help that, right? You and I, we're just like, oh,
it,
okay, let's just put on
it,
our
it's
training hat.
sort of that natural feeling of giving back. And like, what we were just talking about, for example, with technology. I mean, that for a lot of agents in our business and just people in general is the first challenge that they face, right? So again, understanding technology. But if you're new to the business, you want to get organized, right? You want to gather your contacts, the people you know. We say that your business, and the more and more you're in the business, 70% or so of your business comes from the people you know. So organize that group of people as quickly as possible. Get them into some sort of systematic CRM where you can communicate with them, email back and forth, make it easy to send the messages. And over time, those people will always remember you, for their real estate needs, as long as you gently remind them over time. So organizing your contacts is one thing. I always look at social media from a different point of view. Facebook, as far as I'm concerned, is my online sphere of influence, right? So the quicker newer agents grasp the concept that social media should be part of their marketing and to stay connected to their people on a site like Facebook, for example, which keeps everybody connected, that becomes your online sphere of influence. And if you subtly remind people every so often that you're in real estate, they'll remember you when they have a real estate need. I mean, that's what sort of worked for me when it comes to just communicating and putting my brand and my business out there.
What about reaching the people that are not on social media? Do you have any type of technique for agents who can help? Like I see a lot of agents paying for ads. I see a lot of agents paying for lead gen.
Yeah.
I see, being that we're in a pandemic situation where people are not cold calling, but when it does become available again to us agents, what do you see like other avenues for agents to go and reach those people who are not on social media?
So I think that you have to have a balance of the old and the new. I've always said that, right? And coming into the business in 2003 was sort of some of the old, and fast forward to today, old and new. So you can't cold call, right? There's a state of emergency here in New York. The governor keeps extending that, and we can understand why. But you can't make a cold call, especially if you're a new agent. But you can mail. You can send stuff in the mail still, right? So I believe that a good balance of the old and the new is important. So when it comes to mailing, you want to introduce yourself to, let's say, your nearest 250 neighbors, right? As a newer agent. And you do that by mail. And then when you get a listing in the area, you send out a just listed postcard to, let's say, the nearest 100 neighbors or so. When that property goes to contract, you send a contract signed postcard to the same group of people, right? The same 100 neighbors. And then ultimately, when it sells, you send a just sold card to that same group of people. So 100 people surrounding your listing have heard from you 3 times by mail throughout the course of you selling that property. What I like to double up on when it comes to that is creating an ad on Facebook or Instagram in that zip code where that listing is. So now I have a better chance of that homeowner or potential homeowner or even buyer who's scrolling through their feed. They might see my ad, and at the same time, they might get my mail piece, my postcard in the mail. Right. So you're trying, you're giving yourself 2 chances to get in front of people as opposed to 1. And that's kind of the balance of the old and the new.
And do you think that the hitting of the 3 times is very effective for the community, for the branding of the agent? I mean, does the agent have a shot at getting maybe more business as a result of those 3 tries?
A few agents that I know that have been in the business for a long time, and some of them too, sort of use a similar technique. Whether it's 100, whether it's 50, whether it's 150, but they'll send those cards to that same group of addresses. And if you get 1 phone call, 2 phone calls, obviously it's worth it because you're only spending a few $100s, and you have the chance to get more listings. But most of the agents and myself that do that type of technique get at least 1 or 2 phone calls, throughout the time frame of that property being on the market.
When I started in the business, I went door to door.
Well, yeah, when you
I
could.
didn't have a lot of money, and when you could, you went door to door. And I remember I totally forgot that I was circling the neighborhood. I did the entire neighborhood, almost 900 homes.
Wow.
During the winter. It was just
Wow.
crazy. It was just I was a sick bastard back then. But I remember going door to door, and then I remember probably I was just doing it, and
Right.
I was getting listings. I was like, oh, this is fun. I'm having so much fun doing this. And I remember knocking on this poor woman's door 3 times, and she said, "You again?" And the first time she said, "No, I'm not interested." The second time she grabbed my flyer. I remember I had a flyer I went door to door with. And the third time she invited me in.
Yep.
And she just had made some scones and
That's
some
it.
tea.
And that's it.
And the follow-up to that is the poor woman died, passed away about 2 years later, and left me in her will.
Really?
And I'm doing the old Ralph Cramden thing, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich. She left me her fortune, but I didn't do that. But I did think of that. I'd be honest with you. And
but that was nice. No matter whether, no matter what she left, that was nice. Right.
It was so thoughtful of her,
And you left an impression on her. That's what it was about.
Yeah, and I do remember her saying that she did not have a real estate agent. She didn't have a relationship with them. She never really understood our world. And when she finally got to sit down with us, with me, and she understood what we do and how hard we work, in her will, she designated me as her real estate agent to sell the house.
Nice.
And her daughter and her son, they lived in California and Arizona. They didn't want me in.
Wow.
They didn't want me in at all, and the judge mandated that I be the one to sell it.
So it's part of the will.
Just a handful of stories like ours, it keeps us. This is why we're in business. So long,
And to do that, like obviously, like as you started to see results from from those door knocks that you did, and you started to get listings, it's something in your bag of tools or your marketing tools that works, obviously. And another thing too, because you mentioned before for new agents, right? Any advice? You can't just focus on one lead source, right? We know that you have to have multiple lead sources. Sorry, my phone is ringing. You have to have multiple lead sources.
We're on.
Yeah. And multiple lead sources. And we say you have to have at least 4 lead sources working at all times, because one of them might dry up or get slow, and then you've got to tap into the other resources. Sort of like either the 4 legs of a table, like we say in training, or the 4 wheels to a car. All 4 of those lead sources need to move together like the wheels of a car in order for that car to go forward. So don't just focus on one thing. You have to have obviously a few different types of leads coming in.
So I know I'm going to put you on the spot here, but I've been in the business over 30 years now. And actually, this is my 32nd year.
Wow.
But what advice would you give to an old timer like me?
There's no advice that you can give to somebody who's true and tried as far as the traditional concepts of the business are concerned. The only thing that I can say is in the nicest way possible, just be current. You know what I mean? When it comes to technology, understand the basics. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people who have been in the business for a while. They get frustrated with the technology. There's so many different apps, there's so many different platforms you can create a profile on, that they just get frustrated and say, you know what, I'm going to pay somebody else to do it for me, or I'm not even going to do it at all. I'll continue to mail and stuff like that.
The new agents doing that too. They get frustrated with technology, and it's so cool to see them get like, oh, I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. I got to pay somebody to do it. But it's very refreshing to know that you're not the only one.
It's something that, just like anything else, right? Once you break it down into a simplistic format, it becomes easier. So that's what and especially with the training classes, because I've been involved with the training department. I've been with the company 6.5 years, in the training department almost 2 years. And before being in the training department, I managed an office for our company, for Douglas Elliman. So anything involved with training and whether it's new technology or whether it's an older system for somebody who's newer into the business, it's breaking it down into a simplistic format, understanding the basics of it, and just, trying and testing some things one by one to understand it better. It's got to be simplistic in order for it to work for you.
Sure. Sure, it has. Now, one of the new questions of 2021, and you're this is unrehearsed, ladies and gentlemen. So let's see how Michael answers this one. Um, what is your best advice for a manager or a broker for their agents in going forward in the new year?
It's a great question, Joe.
If you had to sit down with a manager or broker, what would be your best advice for them to get them, not they're already motivated to begin with. They want the best for their companies, but what would be your advice for them?
It's a good question. And having been a manager for Douglas Elliman, which is the biggest real estate company in New York, and managing for other companies before coming to Elliman, I've been in the corporate atmosphere for what is it, 14 years, since 2006. I've been in management, training, coaching, all that stuff. So wearing that hat and learning from my own mistakes as a manager, and I did manage a successful office for Douglas Elliman. Not that everything was wrong, but there were mistakes that were made, and you learn from them as you go. I think for any manager, any owner broker with a smaller boutique type office, it's your people. Your agents are your people. Your agents are your front line. Some broker owners may compete with their agents, right? Think about it. As a broker owner, you have agents, but yet you may work the same territory. It can't be like that. It can't be, hey, it's got to be a team effort, obviously, and you've got to treat that team as a team and not just an agent in the office. So getting to know them more on a personal level, especially what we just went through in 2020, right? And see what's affecting them. But I think it's that personal touch. You try to touch every agent in the office at least every couple of weeks, if not once a month, just to understand them on a human level. Never mind the business, put the business aside. So get to know them personally, and as long as you treat your people good, they'll stay with you forever.
That's cool. If I had to pick one of the fiduciary duties of Old Car, obedience, loyalty, disclosure, and confidentiality, accountability, reasonable care, which one would you pick?
I don't think I pick one. I think I learned all of them, just like any agent, broker in the business. You learn, what that means when you take in the class. And I think that the longer you're in the business, the more that everything applies, right? Right now, if I had to pick one out of the six, it's reasonable care, right? Because you have to hold somebody's hand throughout the process on a regular basis. But being that in some cases, considering what we went through in 2020, some people are moving a lot faster than they might have wanted to, right? Things may have sped up on them. So a lot of hand holding, a lot of explaining of the process and how it's going to go, a lot of understanding timeframes. And I think most importantly, and this goes back to one of your first questions about advice, anybody in this business, whether you're just starting or you're in it for a while, you have to be used to giving free advice. You're an advisor, you're a consultant, right? So you're hand holding and you're comforting people throughout the process. One of the first things I say to a homeowner, I'm going to take the stress off your shoulders and put it on my shoulders. The only thing you're going to need to do is get ready to move and then sign a lot of papers when we close. So it's like, a breath of fresh air for that homeowner to realize that, hey, it's not going to be as stressful because this person's going to take care of it, or most of it for me.
It's true. It's reasonable care is probably the best hand holding you could ever give to a homeowner, and an assurance. And I like what you just said. I'm going to take good care of you, and don't worry, I got this. And a lot of homeowners don't do that.
Yeah.
They always like to keep their hand on your steering wheel. And I always say, listen, I'm the bus driver. Let me drive the bus.
Right.
Come on. If your hand goes in one direction, my hand goes in the other, we're not a team.
Right. You got to be on the same path. You got to align your goals. It's one of the other things too, right? You sit down, and it's another thing I say, your goal is to sell your house and move to wherever you're moving to in whatever time frame. So that becomes my goal also, right? I'm here to help you, and we're on the same team, and obviously we're here to accomplish it together.
True. Any last words, any parting advice for our new year?
You and I, again, we have similarities in what we do as far as the business is concerned. So for me, coming up on 18 years that I'm licensed, it's a learning experience. That's how I look at this business. Every day is a new learning experience. And just when you think you know it all, or just when you think you've seen it all as far as a property, you see something new, right? So it's just, especially in this atmosphere, it's looking into 2021 and going forward now that it's early in the year. It's a matter of, okay, is this momentum from 2020 going to continue? we want the craziness to subside, but as far as the housing market, the stock market, will that economic momentum continue and, guide us past a recession or away from a recession or as far as going to it? I think what's important in our business right now is that mortgage rates are literally next to nothing, right? Under 3% on the average. In some cases, people are getting under 2.5%, depending on the loan. So as long as that stays low, the momentum of the housing market will continue. You guys will continue to be crazy busy on Long Island. We'll continue to be crazy busy here in Brooklyn. People are going to Jersey. So it's just the tri-state area is very active right now. And I think it'll definitely
I said this in 2020, there's going to be a lot of repurposing. And the boroughs, I see the word is repurpose, redirect, restructure. And I think that if everyone follows that momentum, not only will Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, Manhattan, the Bronx, they'll come back stronger than ever.
Absolutely.
And, the people that came here, to Long Island will come right back, with I'm coming back to eat pizza. Yeah. So you're gonna see more of me in Brooklyn in this year. So
when they open up some places have outdoor dining, but when they open up indoor dining again, and when it gets a little bit warmer, let's meet up. Come to Brooklyn. Let me know when you're coming in.
Greenpoint is my hometown, so I love Greenpoint, but I go to Bensonhurst, Bay Ridge, everywhere in Brooklyn what I'd like to do? I'd love to go to Coney Island. I've never been there. I've never been to.
Really?
No, I never had a hot dog at Nathan's. Wow. Never.
Well, the good thing about Nathan's is they're open year round, and as long as the weather is decent, not too windy by the water there, you can enjoy it outside. So let me know when you're coming into Brooklyn. We'll grab pizza and hot dogs, and we'll make a day out of it.
We'll get fat this year. That's the theme. We'll get fat. Geraci and Sonona get fat in 2021.
There's so many different pizza options in Brooklyn and different.
I think we're gonna hit them all. We're gonna hit them all. We're gonna tour, and we're gonna take a sample of each pizzeria.
I like that idea.
Wouldn't that be a great tour for us?
And here's one more thing before we cut off here. And being that you mentioned it, and anything else that I can give advice on, what I'm focusing on now, especially with the pandemic and coming out of 2020 in Brooklyn, like we just said, indoor dining is closed down. So restaurants especially need a ton of support, and that's one thing I'm big on, is supporting the community and other local businesses within where I operate. So I've done a lot of videos, neighborhood type videos, where I just highlight, there's real estate mentioned in the video, but I'm more highlighting these local businesses and putting them on camera. So I think that the more we do that as real estate agents and brokers and showcase the other businesses within our community, think about it, Joe. If we do a good video, well-produced video, and we place it on Facebook, for example, without even putting an ad behind it and spending money, that video can get in front of 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people.
Why don't we do it? Why don't we make that our ambition and really boost the community? Yeah. And it's not just us, Michael. It's the entire real estate community. Yes. If that's one project we could all get behind, to help the small businesses in our communities that we serve. Yep. And let's start a campaign for 2021. That's good. We're going to hit the ground running, and we're going to roll it out month of January and so forth.
Let's do it.
I like it. I like it a lot. I think that's a great idea. And I think that every realtor should jump on this bandwagon in their community.
It's easy for us to do it. We're on social media. We do video. Jump into the community, show your involvement in the community, and support as many local businesses as you can.
We're the ambassadors of our community, and we need to kind of we do need to give this a boost. Yep. And so I agree 100%. That's a great idea. Thank you for sharing that.
Let's do it. Yep.
We'll do that. Well, listen, thank you for being my guest this week on Coffee Talk with the Listing Pros in Real Estate. And this is another great episode of Sonona Speaks Seminars, where our first guest was Michael Geraci of Douglas Elliman. Thank you, Michael.
Joe, thank you for having me. I'll see you soon, bud.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.